Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the sources you shared with us, the wikis, the analyses, the developer notes, and the lore dumps, and try to make practical and memorable sense of the overwhelming mountain of information.
Today, we are taking a scalpel to the very early stages of Final Fantasy XIII. We're not just looking at a story beat, no. We're looking at a sustained, deliberate act of player trauma.
That's a strong way to put it.
It is. Our deep dive mission today is to really dissect the painful birth of the l'Cie, the lore, the identity, and the just catastrophic impact of the Pulse Volsianima.
And it's all wrapped up in this one unforgiving, unrewarding experience that is the Pulse Vestige dungeon.
Yeah.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. So let's just jump in.
Okay, let's unpack this entire mess. We start this whole adventure, already branded, completely confused, running for our lives. And the central architect of this misery is a machine called Animal.
The cynicism starts immediately. I mean, from a game design perspective, it's almost hostile.
Absolutely.
Because the game teaches you about character growth. This beautiful, sprawling progression system, the Crystarium. And then in the very next chapter, it just locks it down.
Right, you can't use it.
You can't use it. It's the ultimate Square Enix head fake, a true Square Enix welcome. They dangle this carrot of meaningful customization, of leveling, right in front of your face in the tutorial.
And then just snatch it away.
The snatch away. They're
Yeah.
basically saying, we know you like leveling up, so we're going to show you exactly what you can't do yet, and then force you to endure 3 hours of unrewarding linear dungeon crawling.
A crawl that is driven purely by plot momentum. There's no other reward.
None. You're condemned to this grim, predefined fate as a Pulse l'Cie before you even get to pick your first sphere grid node or spend a single point of CP. It's almost deliberately antagonistic.
I remember that feeling so clearly, just running into another fight, knowing the experience points were technically there but completely useless. It's like being forced to run a marathon with weights on, knowing you can't take them off until the halfway point.
A perfect analogy. But okay, before we get too deep into that controlled helplessness, let's focus on the machine itself.
Yeah.
The catalyst.
Anima. So, who or what is it? I mean, based on the source material, the definition is almost clinical. It's a mechanical being, a fal'Cie from Pulse, and it lives at the top of this maze-like crystal structure, the Pulse Vestige.
Right. And it's described as genderless, cold, and it has this glowing crystal core. Very sterile.
But the name?
The name.
Yeah.
This is where the critical tension for the entire game begins. It's this absolute cognitive dissonance between what it looks like, a heartless, gigantic, impersonal war machine, and what it's called.
The sources are super clear on this.
Oh, yeah. Anima is a feminine Latin and Italian noun. It means soul, spirit, or breath. The ancient Romans believed the anima was in the chest and was tied to emotion, to the heart.
So you have this massive, unfeeling, oppressive machine, and its name literally means soul.
It's not just irony, it feels like a cosmic joke being played on everyone, on the characters and on you, the player.
Everything in this highly technological, artificial world is named after these deep, essential human concepts. You've got fate, soul, purpose.
And they're all embodied by giant, cold, mechanical bureaucrats. This is the definition of soul as a project manager. It sets the standard for how all the fal'Cie operate.
Beings of immense power, but totally devoid of the emotional context their names should imply.
They're just machines executing code. And that code includes creating life and handing out death sentences.
And this particular machine, Anima, it has this bizarre, totally ignored history. Before the big war of transgression, that huge conflict 500 years before our story starts, it wasn't some apocalyptic villain.
Not at all. It was located in Orba, on Grand Pulse. That's the world below Cocoon for anyone who's forgotten. And what's fascinating here is that Anima was the village patron.
It was a guardian.
It was a guardian. It protected Orba's residents from hostile wildlife. It functioned as a benevolent local protector. That whole image is just completely overwritten by the time we meet it.
Because of Cocoon's fear-based propaganda, once it became a political liability, its history as a benign neighborhood watch fal'Cie is just erased.
Yep. And the moment it became a problem was during that war of transgression. Anima branded Fang and Vanille.
And gave them that infamous focus.
Transform into the world-shattering creature Ragnarok and completely destroy Cocoon.
But that attempt failed.
It failed, and not because of anything Cocoon did. It failed because of divine intervention. The goddess Etro, who operates outside the fal'Cie's established rules, just stepped in and put both of them into crystal stasis, right there, next to Anima. a cosmic timeout.
Which leads us right into the 500-year logistical nightmare. Cocoon needs massive repairs after the war, so what do?
They just loot Grand Pulse.
Yeah.
Simple as that. They literally scooped up Anima's entire throne, the Pulse vestige, with the 2 crystallized, civilization-destroying Lacey still inside.
And just lifted the whole thing into Cocoon.
And this is a critical, almost criminally negligent detail that the sources really emphasize. The Sanctum, the ruling body, had no idea they had imported an active alien Fossey stowaway.
They just thought it was a nice historical curio, a landmark for Bodum.
Exactly. It sat there, dormant, for 5 centuries, a ticking time bomb just waiting for Sarah to wander in. It's negligence on a massive civilization-ending scale. They literally imported the source of their greatest fear.
And when Fang and Vanille wake up and leave, the disaster just accelerates at this terrifying pace. First, Sarah goes in, she gets branded.
Right. And her focus is to gather the other less needed to execute the Ragnarok focus. Then PSICOM, the military, finds the vestige. They send in a highly trained squadron to investigate what happens to them.
Instant catastrophic failure.
That's putting it mildly. The sources confirm every single one of those soldiers is branded less, and they immediately, brutally turn into Sith.
This is so important because it confirms the terrifying speed of the curse. If you fail your focus fast enough, or if the focus is just impossible, you become a monster, instantly.
The investigation team became the very monsters they were sent to eradicate. In minutes.
And that rapid-fire sequence of events, Sarah getting branded, the PSICOM soldiers getting branded and corrupted, that's the mechanism. That's what justifies genocide.
The data log is chillingly explicit about it. The discovery of Anima and the fear that Bodum's population might have been tainted by its magic, that fear spawned the Purge.
It's a textbook case of societal overreaction, rooted in total ignorance and paranoia.
The Sanctum knew absolutely nothing about Pulse Falsey. They saw instant corruption, they believed it could be contagious, and rather than risk the taint spreading, they decided to, mass relocate and detain an entire city's population.
Which, as we know, is basically a death sentence.
So one accidental C, Sarah, and a handful of dead soldiers who turn into shambling monsters means we kill everyone else. Stellar military policy.
It wasn't based on confirmed infection. It was pure fear of possible contamination from something they couldn't understand.
And this brings us back to the baffling layered complexity of the branding itself. Because Anima is the Falsey that chooses the lossy and sets the focus. But Anima doesn't actually do the branding.
Right. It's outsourced, the ultimate sign of cosmic bureaucracy. When our party confronts Anima, they get pulled into this alternate dimension, the realm of the gods.
Exactly. Anima is the project manager assigning the task. But the actual HR department, the God Pulse, is the entity that physically implants the idolets, the crystals that become the lossy brand.
So it confirms a hierarchy of power. The Falsey are the creators and maintainers, but they're subservient to the gods, Pulse and Linzai,
who wield the ultimate power of creation and destruction, and more importantly, the power to assign a destiny.
And if you look closer at Anima's focus for Sarah to gather Lassie, it's just designed to self-perpetuate the Ragnarok plan.
Absolutely. Anima's focus is manipulative and, frankly, insidious. It used Sarah as bait.
Ensuring that anyone connected to her, her sister Lightning, her fiancé Snow, would follow her right into the vestige.
By fulfilling her focus, she essentially guaranteed the branding of the very people needed to execute the original goal of destroying Cocoon. She wasn't branded to save the world. She was branded to recruit the world's destroyers.
That just makes the early narrative even darker. Sarah wasn't just a casualty. She was a calculated stepping stone toward mass annihilation.
All orchestrated by a machine named Soul.
Okay, so that intense complexity then transitions into the physical space where it all happens. The Pulse vestige, the setting for Chapter 2, the point where so many players first realize this game is not holding their hand.
It is the definition of a punitive dungeon, and the structure itself mirrors the lore. The vestige, originally a sacred landmark in Bodum, gets moved by PSICOM to the barred-off militarized area, the Hanging Edge.
And it has these weirdly liturgical names for its areas. The Sacrarium, the House of Stairs, the Ambulatory, the Oblatorium.
It suggests a pilgrimage, but it's a forced, violent one.
And here's the core, unforgiving gameplay fact that defines this entire chapter. The vestige is Chapter 2. It is unrevisitable. And, most importantly, the Crystarium is locked. The enemies you fight
give you 0 CP, 0. You are forced to spend 2 or 3 hours enduring fight after fight with a rudimentary, limited paradigm system. Your progress is measured purely in linear movement and exposure to more lore.
There is no satisfaction of seeing your character get stronger. None. Which is the foundational reward loop of almost every Final Fantasy game.
The only reward is maybe a chest with a tiny bit of gil, a potion, or, a key weapon like Lightning's Gladius. It's designed to make you feel desperate and weak.
It's a gauntlet of despair. And the basic fodder we're grinding against are the ghouls, the unremarkable basic Seath enemy shambling around in groups.
Reinforcing that the PSICOM squadron failed. Fast. And the ghouls' stats, they tell the whole tragic story. They have, 330 HP, a stagger threshold of 110%. But the critical, system-defining data point is their weakness profile. Ghouls are 200% weak to fire, ice, lightning, and water. That's double damage from 4 different elements.
But only 100%, so standard damage to physical, magical, and earth. This isn't just a random stat placement.
No, the game is subtly, or I'd say violently, forcing you to abandon any instinct to just rely on standard commando physical attacks. They're inefficient. You must learn to ravage, build the chain gauge, and exploit elemental weaknesses.
It forces you to engage the stagger system immediately without the crutch of leveling up.
And the ghouls themselves are pathetic in combat. It reflects their fresh transformation from human soldiers. They attack in numbers, but they miss all the time, and this is my favorite part. They can damage each other.
A bit of dark humor in their incompetence.
Totally. They also try to heal themselves with a spell that just never works. The logic is clear. These are the former PSICOM soldiers, instantly corrupted, so weak and shambling that their sokas failed so fast they can't even execute basic combat.
It just reinforces the trauma. Lightning and Saz are literally fighting the remnants of the military squads sent in to investigate. You're forced to confront the brutal reality of the Lussie curse right away.
And that reality culminates at Anima's throne. Before the fight even starts, you get the emotional core of the trauma. Sarah crystallizes.
She asks Lightning to save Cocoon and then just locks herself away. This act immediately creates that foundational conflict between Snow and Lightning.
Snow, who is steeped in delusion, sees the crystal sleep as a kind of temporary rest. And Lightning, the pragmatist, who believes her sister is just dead.
That dynamic is immediately put on hold when Anima decides, right, enough drama, time for the main event.
It brands the entire party. Lightning, Snow, Saz, Hope, Vanille.
Yeah.
Everyone present gets transported to that alternate dimension to receive the idolith.
And once the branding is complete, PSICOM executes its brilliant military strategy.
Which is, since we can't control it, we have to obliterate it. They fire these massive energy lasers, obliterating the hanging edge. Anima falls, and the impact is visually spectacular, but narratively very understated.
It just slams into Lake Brescia, and the entire lake crystallizes instantly.
And you, the player, are left with this image of a vast, frozen blue landscape.
Yeah.
You assume Anima is dead, or at least disabled. But the true world-altering impact of this event is something you likely never knew unless you dove deep into the supplemental material.
This is where the lore dump really hits, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. The Final Fantasy XIII Gaiden Shusetsu novel and other data logs confirm that the shockwave from Anima's crystallization of Lake Brescia, it emanated throughout all of Cocoon, and it temporarily disabled all fal'Cie within the sphere.
Wait, let's stop right there. Let's unpack that, because that is a massive consequence. Cocoon is an artificial world. Everything, gravity, weather, food production, light, air, is governed by the ruling sanctum fal'Cie.
Correct. Eden, Phoenix, Kujata. These city-sized machines. The sources state that for a period of time, all of them had a collective seizure. They were paralyzed.
So imagine the chaos. The gravity fal'Cie stutters, the climate control systems go haywire, the lights are flickering across every city center.
Absolutely. So the purge and the chaos that follows, it wasn't just driven by abstract fear and Sarah's branding. It was a genuine societal reaction to a moment of existential infrastructure-wide threat.
A threat initiated by one single alien machine that was accidentally imported 5 centuries ago.
Yes. The government used the visual of the purge, the scary Lussie curse, to distract from the terrifying mechanical failure that just occurred. The purge was a political move to maintain control while the technological heart of their society had just briefly stopped beating.
That single, unstated detail in the main game just dramatically elevates the importance of that Chapter 2 boss fight. It goes from a localized tragedy to a near-apocalyptic infrastructure collapse.
Exactly.
So while the world is literally crystallizing and society is panicking about gravity, let's pivot to the smaller, more mundane sources of player frustration. The equipment we're stuck with, and the ridiculous systems surrounding it.
We move from cosmic bureaucracy to mechanical bureaucracy. And the weapon system is a headache wrapped in a really beautiful design aesthetic.
Every character's weapon transforms, right? Fang's spear splits into a 3-section staff. Saw's the Elder's pistols combine into a rifle.
They're visually complex, but functionally, they lock you into a baffling upgrade grind. And this upgrade path is what defines the next 40 hours of gameplay. It's a 3-tier system, and the game provides almost no explanation up front.
Okay, so Tier 1 is your starting weapon. You feed it EXP by using components, junk parts, basically.
Right, and once you hit the max experience for Tier 1, which is shown by a little star, you need a crucial, high-value catalyst to evolve it to Tier 2.
And these catalysts are not cheap, and they are not common early on. We're talking about things like perovskite, uraninite.
And eventually, the highly coveted, absurdly expensive, and hard-to-find trapezohedron you need for the final Tier 3.
The gil requirement for this system is just insane. You need massive component multipliers to optimize the EXP gain, and then you need millions of gil just to buy the rare catalysts later.
It creates this bizarre secondary grind. You aren't just farming experience, you're farming junk components to sell, so you can buy bigger components to then buy catalysts. It's a logistical nightmare just to make your sword a bit better.
But the ultimate form, Tier 3 Omega weapons, save the queen, all that, it gives one major universal benefit, ATB +1.
A total game changer for paradigm shifting. But, and this is the crucial strategic point, these ultimate weapons retain the base model's specific passive ability.
This is the genius and the frustration of the whole system. You're not upgrading based on raw stats. You are committing to a lineage based on the passive ability that lineage provides.
And if you chose a poor Tier 1 weapon because its initial stats looked good, you might be stuck with a useless passive 50 hours later, even with your ultimate weapon.
Okay, so let's break down the early decisions. Lightning, for instance. She finds the Gladius right here in the Pulse vestige.
The Gladius path is based on an excavated pulse weapon, and it specializes heavily in strength. If you choose that path, you maximize her physical damage. She becomes a devastating commando.
But the flip side is you miss out on something like the Axis Blade path, which retains the passive attack, ATB Charge 2, which is arguably better for general play because it just speeds up your turn generation.
Or take Saz. He's your crucial Ravager and Synergist. If you prioritize staggering, his Antares Deluxe's path is absolutely indispensable.
Why that one?
Because its ultimate form retains the chain bonus boostability ability. That means Saz, with that weapon, is significantly better at building the stagger bar than almost any other character.
So the game is forcing you to make these complex strategic decisions based on passive abilities you probably don't even fully understand during Chapter 2.
Immense pressure, given your lack of resources.
And this leads us to the cynical, brilliant, and utterly broken cheat code of the early game. The Shroud economy.
Ah, yes. The Shrouds. Fortizol, Aegisol, Deceptizol.
These temporary pre-battle buffs. Bravery, haste, protect, shell, lifesavers.
They're crucial for survival, but they're normally expensive or hard to farm. Which is why the design of the Pulse vestige is such a masterful and frankly hilarious scam.
Okay, so in Grand Pulse, the massive late game area, you have a miserable 0.3% chance to get most shrouds.
In the vestige, the base drop rate is 12%. But here's the critical systemic breakdown. The game rewards you for being sharp at it.
If you get a 5-star ranking in a fight, the drop rate is normal, 12%. But the battle ranking system drastically increases the drop rate the worse you perform.
If you get a 2-star ranking, it doubles. 1-star, it quadruples. And if you achieve a 0-star ranking,
The drop rate increases by a factor of 8.
let's put that number in perspective for you. If you get wiped out, or if you intentionally crawl through a battle as slowly as possible, your Shroud drop rate rockets to at least 96%.
You literally get richer by losing faster.
It creates a complete psychological breakdown for any performance-focused player. The optimal strategy in the Pulse vestige is to intentionally fail the battle clock.
Prolong the fight, or die and retry, just to maximize your resource drops. The game is actively telling you that your battle performance doesn't matter, only your ability to accumulate consumables.
It forces you into this bizarre grind of tanking battles to ensure you have enough Fortizol and Aegisol to survive the next boss fight because you can't level up.
You're trading tactical excellence for basic self-preservation.
And of course, players, being resourceful, didn't stop there. They immediately figured out the ultimate exploit involving the Deceptisol, which grants stealth.
Ah, the famous trick. The source material details this. You use a Deceptisol, enter a battle while under its effect, and then immediately cancel out using the retry option.
When you hit retry, you respawn. The game registers that you failed the fight, so it doesn't consume the item, but the effect of the shroud remains active.
You keep the stealth effect, and you keep the item. This allowed players to constantly maintain stealth, to get guaranteed preemptive strikes on every enemy, or just bypass them entirely without spending a single resource.
It's a pure player hack, cheating the resource economy by exploiting a technicality.
And the best part, the developers knew about it. The Final Fantasy XIII 2 Brain Blast quiz actually references this exploit. It mentions a hero in a film called M.I. Sahagan using a Deceptazole to sneak past security.
So they gave a canonical nod to the player's most reliable early game cheat.
The early game is therefore a test. Are you going to play as intended, grind slowly and fail often? Or are you going to embrace the meta, exploit the system, and become a tactical genius in failure?
Wow. Okay, so we've covered the antagonists and the mechanics. Let's ground this massive accidental catastrophe in physical space, which is still confusing for a lot of people. The geography of Cocoon.
It's absolutely essential to grasp the inside-out nature of this world. Cocoon is not a planet. It's an artificial spherical shell, a partial Dyson sphere if you want the technical term.
So land, cities, oceans, people, they all live on the inside wall of the sphere.
Meaning when you look up from Bodum, you're actually seeing the curving landmass and cities of the opposite side of the sphere, with the central city, Eden, floating in the empty middle. That's the sky.
And the pulse vestige was located in Bodum near the bottom, or inner surface. PSICOM moved it up to the hanging edge near the boundary.
This internal geography is why the sequence after the Anima fight is so violent. The party crashes from the obliterated hanging edge down into Lake Brescia. They then traverse the crystallized lake on foot to get to Bodum.
A violent, forced trajectory down the inner wall of the sphere.
And this geography just underscores the Sanctum's paranoia. Their entire existence is a lie built on technology maintained by their own fal'Cie. The potential for anything from Grand Pulse, the hostile outside world below, to penetrate that shell is an absolute existential threat.
And Anima, an import from that dangerous world, proved that threat was already inside the gate.
Which loops us back one more time to Anima's confusing name. We establish soul and breath, but the sources provide deeper etymological and psychological context.
Right, the Latin roots.
So Anima was associated with emotion, the heart, the breath of life. Its counterpart was animus logic, reason, the brain. Naming a cold, mechanical being that executes a devastating purpose, anima, is a statement.
What's the statement?
This thing is the antithesis of the soul it represents. It's a machine of pure, unfeeling animus, yet it wears the mask of anima.
And if we connect this to Jungian psychology, the anima is the unconscious inner self in contact with the subconscious versus the outward persona.
Exactly. And it also refers to the subconscious female qualities in males. So this raises a critical psychological interpretation of the Lust curse. The Lusts are forced to confront their focus, their fate, which often feels illogical or impossible.
So the machine named Soul serves as a cosmic mirror, forcing them to reckon with the raw, emotional, illogical truth of their new existence, their inner anima, rather than relying on the logic and structure of the sanctum, the animus.
The curse itself is forcing them toward emotional truth.
And the final potent connection is the religious metaphor of the anima sola.
The lonely soul in Roman Catholicism. The anima sola is pictured in purgatory, requiring divine assistance and help from the living to be released.
Which is a perfect metaphor for the lessee.
Isn't it? They are trapped in this unforgiving cycle of purgatory, branded by the soul, fal'Cie, forever striving to complete an impossible focus to gain release into crystal stasis, requiring help from both the gods, like Etro, and the living, their party.
They are the lonely souls desperately needing assistance to complete their assigned penance.
And even after all that, the laser strike, the crystallization, the near destruction of Cocoon's infrastructure, Anima's design aesthetic still matters 500 years later. It echoes through Final Fantasy XIII too.
Right. In 13.2, when Sarah and Noel go to Academia 400 AF, they encounter the proto-fal'Cie Adam.
And while Adam is a new creation, it looks a lot like Anima. The speculation in the sources is that Hope Estine, who designed much of Academia's infrastructure by that point, specifically chose the design of a lower world fal'Cie aesthetic. Anima's look.
But why? Why choose the aesthetic of the machine that caused the purge and branded all his friends?
It implies a powerful symbolic weight. Anima was the catalyst for chaos, yes, but it was also a pulse fal'Cie. It came from the true world, Grand Pulse. By choosing that design for Academia's protective fal'Cie, Hope was arguably signaling independence from the old, manipulative Cocoon Felsi.
So Anima's design represented the true, untainted power of Pulse, a force of nature compared to the controlled, oppressive technology of Descent.
Even in death, the aesthetics of the accidental enemy define the future.
That's an incredible legacy for a boss fight you encounter in Chapter 2 right after your first hour of confusion.
It really is.
So we've taken the deepest dive possible into Anima. This entity went from being a benevolent patron of Orba to an accidental stowaway, and finally the direct catalyst for the violent purge and the existential trauma of our entire party.
It defined the early gameplay experience, forcing you through a brutal, unrewarding gauntlet where failure was literally more profitable than success.
The surface narrative is one of running, fighting, and being branded by a scary machine.
But the hidden complexity Etro's intervention, the true role of the god Pulse in the branding, and especially that shockwave that temporarily disabled all of Cocoon's infrastructure, it shows a plot operating on secret, world-altering rules that you, the player, are entirely unaware of during those crucial first hours.
You're forced to master the mechanics on a micro level, even if it feels like wading through mud, because the alternative is instant death. So what does this all mean for you, the player, you ask? The early game is a masterclass in controlled helplessness. You are forced through the vestige with minimal gear, no leveling system, driven purely by the shock of being branded by a mechanical entity named Soul.
You are resource poor, and the game actively rewards you for failure just to make sure you have enough consumables to scrape by.
Your entire early experience is defined by a machine that was never supposed to be there, proving that the greatest threats in this world often arrive by accidental import, not some grand malicious design.
It's a high-concept lesson in fate versus free will, disguised as a linear corridor simulator. The failure of PSICOM, the paralysis of the fallacy, the crippling fear of the purge, it all stems from one massive logistical oversight.
And here is the provocative thought for you to chew on. If Anima's death, crystallizing Lake Brescia, was powerful enough to temporarily disable all Falsi and Cocoon, what did the creators assume the average player would feel when they saw that massive, silent crystal formation, knowing nothing about the secret novels that explained its true world-altering significance?
They threw us into the deep end, let us nearly drown in mechanics, and then told us the world was almost completely destroyed by that splash. But only if we read a separate book.
They absolutely demanded that you either trust the chaos or go find the hidden answers yourself.
And with that, we'll leave you to consider the soul of the machine and the joy of the zero-star grind.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.